Today we are going to talk about how to position the garden to maximize its growth, production, and abundance, and how no matter what size garden you have, you can grow many things. Later we're going to take a look at how this farm grew their hay, how they got it all cut, fluffed it, and baled it, so stay tuned for that. We'll look at that a little bit later. So if you don't know, I'm living on somebody else's farm. It's so beautiful, and I have this little piece cut out, and I was allowed to do a garden here, and so I ended up opting for these bags because right now I'm living in this temporary situation, and I didn't want to put anything into the ground because it's not really my land, and they mow around here, and there's horses, and there's all these people walking by all the time, so I just wanted it to be compact yet kind of mighty, so tiny and mighty, and this is what I came up with. But I had to move the pots around because when I initially started planting, I just kind of started throwing things into the ground, or into these pots rather, and then as the pots filled up, you start getting pattern. So I had a lot of tomatoes, a lot of peppers, and I have a lot of like squashes and things like that. So I repositioned the garden to have the majority of the peppers on the back side because they're going to take a little bit longer to grow, and I started moving all of the tomatoes to the front side, mainly so that I could access them from the outside, and then also so that the sun can maximize their growth, because tomatoes like a lot of heat and a lot of sun, and that's really how they get ripe and beautiful and stay dry all throughout the season. So I'm just kind of repositioning the garden to maximize the growth. The tiny bus and the garden faces south, which is ideal. That's really where you want your plants or your garden to grow. Even if you're growing things in a windowsill, if you're living in an apartment, I would choose the windowsill that's closest to the south facing side and go from there. But no matter what you're dealing with, you really want to make sure that the plants that you're working with have the right amount of sun growing into them and spacing so that they can kind of complement each other, shade out some other plants and give them a little bit more freedom from the heat of the sun, while other plants kind of can absorb that. So that's what we're doing here. So stay tuned and follow along, and we'll watch how the garden grows together as the season progresses. Another thing I just wanted to mention really quickly is that I ended up adding a lot of flowers to the tiny bus garden because I'm living in the middle of a grass field and I really wanted to bring in the pollinators. So I've been adding in hibiscus flowers, some hollyhocks, some little roses, and those blue columbines, and I actually got some yellow columbines. So now I've had all sorts of pollinators, and even hummingbird came and visited me quite a few times already, so it's very exciting. And all the pollinators are really loving all this extra growth here. I think Hunter even really likes it too. It creates a space for us to have a little ecosystem right in front of the tiny bus, and it's really exciting for all of us. I hope after watching this video you're inspired to just start anywhere. It doesn't really matter what the garden looks like, or even if you're working on a windowsill. It's just a matter of getting going and starting, and it's such a humbling experience working with nature, and it's such a beautiful thing when you have the abundance come after all your hard work. One of the other things that happened this week that was really interesting on the farm was that the farmers from next door finally came in to cut all the hay. And let me tell you, it is a bit of a process. It all has to be timed with the weather. Like, it can't have rained for the last couple days, and it can't be raining for the next couple days because they don't want the hay to mold or get weird before they have to bale it up, or while it's being baled, so that there's nothing gross growing in it through the winter months when they go to feed it to the animals. But it's all like very intricately timed. And this year we've had so much rain. I think that this would have been done earlier, but because of all the rain, it kind of took a little bit longer in the season to get done. So when it finally happened, it was really cool to see all the big machines come in. And actually, on a side note, the farmers that did come in to cut the hay are the same farmers that I actually bought the straw from to keep the tiny bus nice and warm over the winter. I did a video on that a little bit earlier, so you guys can go back and watch that if you want to see all that went into keeping the bus warm during the winter months here. So it was really cool to see them come and work the farm here, and I got to kind of see the whole process. But these guys are pretty young. I think they're all teenagers really, and it's pretty impressive to see them doing this skill so well. I mean, talk about what life skills they'll have for the rest of their life. It's pretty amazing. So I am definitely not a farmer, perhaps one in training, but it was really cool to see the whole process. I mean, they came in, they cut it all down. You know, the next day they came in, they fluffed it up. Now they're trying to corral it into these rows, and then they're going to come back with the bigger machine and bale them all into huge round bales. I mean, then after that, they come back with a trailer and a skid steer and load them all up and take them all off to their farm, back down on the other side a few miles away. The whole process, all in all, was honestly so interesting. And just grass in general, it's such a big industry that we kind of take for granted, especially coming from a big city. You know, I grew up in a city where it cost a lot of money to grow your, grass in your garden. And my mom just kind of ended up taking them out over the years as we lived in our house for like 45 years. I mean, by the time we sold it, we didn't have any grass growing there because it's just too hard to maintain in where we were in part of the country. It was really hot and water was definitely expensive. So, coming here to the Midwest and seeing the definite plethora of how grass is used is pretty interesting, and seriously it opens up a whole new world. I hope this little snapshot of kind of watching the process of them doing the heyday and kind of seeing how I rearranged the garden gives you a little bit of inspiration to do your own garden, and just to kind of have a little bit of grace, or at least for me, I do, for this weird grass industry that really feeds so much of us in so many ways that we probably don't even know or honestly take for granted. So thank you for joining me. I'm glad that you were here. You're welcome to subscribe. It helps me along. And I just hope you get some value and joy in this video. I would love to share another one with you to give you an update on how the garden is doing. And so stay tuned for that. But thank you for being here. I wish you all the love and light and happiness, and subscribe and come along with Hunter and I. Thanks so much for watching.